welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Talked Before. This time we're going back to the 70s again. Quark, the classic, well, classic's probably not, cult sci-fi comedy show from the mid-70s. I remembered it a lot fondly, then I watched it. We'll talk about it here. Hopefully you watched it on YouTube. If you made it through all the episodes, I commend you. Speaking of episodes to get through, but you're not going to have a hard time, she's right here, Marianne's Macabre Review. Marianne, what's it about? Marianne's Macabre Review.
It is about different types of horror in all genres. It is forms. You know, so if you got a horror board game that you ever want reviewed, you want a horror movie that you like that we haven't covered yet, let us know. We have horror TV shows. We have yet to cover one. I have one I want to cover, Hemlock Grove. If you've watched it, let's talk about it. I would love. Looks like we might even have someone to cover the first season with us.
We did do Haunting of Hill House.
We did do, yes. We've done one. All right, so there you go.
Are you going to cover Quark anytime soon?
Yeah, oh yeah, definitely.
It was a horror for some people to watch.
Don't lie.
Marianne's Macabre Review. Check it out. All things horror. They got quite a catalog already. There's a lot out there. Check it out. Right here, IABDpresents.com. Part of the IABD Presents network. And support Marianne and the rest of us. Patreon.com/IABD. So simple. Make it a monthly gift. Make it a recurring gift. That's what I meant to say. Either way, if it's recurring, it's probably monthly. Something else. This is the other Stark Story Snacks Season 3. It's coming to an end. But for a limited time, the stories are still free on our website, IABDpresents.com. Binge all 9 microfiction pieces of scary, mysterious, and mythical. Yeah, maybe they'll cover that on Marianne's Macabre Review. They'll cover a scary Stark Story Snack. This alliteration is scary. Either way, check it out. Samantha Stark putting these together. Season 1 and 2 are available in digital illustrated collections on Amazon.com. So if you dig 3, go back at 1 and 2. Speaking of helpings that you might go back for and you might not, this is us talking about Quark on It's All Been Trekked Before.
Welcome out to another episode of It's All Been Trekked Before. Very skeleton crew.
This is Steven.
Jimmy-Jerome. Keith will be joining us.
He's having problems with his warp drive.
His dilithium crystal cracked.
That's exactly it. So
he's got to get it unflattened.
Scotty's trying to get it fixed.
So, but he's only watched a couple episodes of Quark, so we figured we'd start without him. First impressions of the series.
Obviously I hadn't seen it in 40 years.
You haven't watched it all since it was on?
No, I hadn't. When we first started talking about it, I watched the first 5 minutes of the pilot. I was like, oh, Jesus. This is going to hurt a lot. And then when I went back to watch, I thought, okay. I found myself laughing more than I thought. Mm-hmm. But then, we were talking off mic, me, you, and Keith, about... Keith said he only got so far, and you were like, well, you're lucky. And I kind of felt that way, too, eventually, just watching it, God, is this not done yet? Because I was like, I'm only watching, and granted, one of the ones I watched on kept interrupting every 5 minutes with commercials.
Oh, I didn't have that.
But I only had that on one episode, but at that point I was like, dang it, I want to get through this. But overall, and we'll get deeper into it, but it's a missed opportunity. I laughed more than I thought I would. Mm-hmm. Because I was sure it was all nostalgia, and I'll get into how deep nostalgic it is for me. I'm glad it was only 8 episodes. That said,
had it been much more, I don't think I would have finished it. I'm sorry.
If it had been 25 episodes, that would have been, at that level, that would have been tough.
Because it was only 8, this really wasn't too bad. I watched it in 2 days. I could say my first impression was this is icky. I don't want to. Mainly because, and we'll talk specifically about them, but mainly the twins, the clones, and Jean.
Yeah. I'm much more bothered by Jean than the twins.
Yes.
But
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I agree.
Yeah.
Jean's worse. And we'll get... And I do want to dig into that deeper, but I want to keep going with the first impression. Sure. But because that's like half the main cast right there, it was hard to appreciate. But as I was episode 5, 6, 7, 8, I was trying to separate myself from it and be like, look, I need to give... Steven liked it as a kid. Sure. I need to try to put myself in those shoes. And honestly, I think if I had watched this, I wasn't born in the 70s, but if I had watched it in the late 80s, early 90s, I think I would have enjoyed it. I could see the sense of humor. I love Get Smart, and it has some similarities. I think this was more Hogan's Heroes meets Flash Gordon, the 80s movie. Yeah,
that's a good comp.
I think that's how I saw it, and I like both of those things despite how bad they are, because there's a certain charm to them. Yeah. The homophobia and sexism aside, I think most of the rest of the humor was along those lines.
Yeah, to your point about that, I didn't realize at the time how much it was trying to mix all those things in a big stew.
Yeah.
Star Wars, Star Trek, Flash Gordon, all that stuff. Because at the time, I mean, I watched Flash Gordon then too, but I didn't realize all the things they were.
One of my favorite terrible movies.
Well, I'm including the Flash Gordon serials. I was watching
no, I've
then.
just seen the 80s movie with soundtrack by Queen.
I'm talking the Buster Crab, like from the 30s. Because again, as soon as Star Wars came out, those things came out of the woodwork, and actually those things are kind of cool for the 30s, but that's not for this podcast.
I didn't actually see Flash Gordon as a kid. I've only seen it as an adult.
Yeah,
but I've seen it half a dozen times, and I love it.
I enjoy it much more as an adult than I did as a kid. I just. Yeah, it was.
I like it much more than it deserves to be liked.
Yeah, and I was remembering as I watched it and everything. I was 9. I was in 4th grade. Star Wars had just come out, and I think, I remember all these things. I was more obsessed with this at this time than Star Trek because I didn't get into Star Trek until the next year.
Oh,
I mean, I watched Star Trek and I was familiar with it, and I got that this had some similarities to it. But I didn't realize till I watched it this time, like, oh, that's the Deadly Years. That's the Enemy Within, and that's the Shore Leave episode. So I remember I watched it every week. I would play it at recess. I would get my friends together and we would play the different characters.
Really?
I used to draw the ship, and then I think I did some like little comic booky type stories from it.
Nice.
That's how into it I was. And then it just went away. And of course I was like, how could they have canceled this? It was so great.
Yeah.
Now I understand why they canceled it.
I don't understand how they put it on the air.
I think Buck Henry creating it.
Right.
And him being the Get Smart guy and did The Graduate. And I noticed as the more I watch, I'm like, oh, you know what? Buck Henry created it, but at no other point does his name show up. And I think that's part of the disconnect.
Yeah, I think his humor is more evident in the pilot.
Yeah. All of those aspects make it nostalgic for me. And hitting on the twins, which I would have loved to have. This was like the height of TNA television, or Jiggly television is one of the reviews I read talked about. You didn't have cable yet. You didn't have basic cable. You didn't really have VHS porn you could take home or whatever. So, but it was the 70s, so nobody was wearing a bra or anything.
Yep.
So you could push the envelope on TV, and those guys they were more of that, like we said, it's kind of a gumbo, almost a stew of all these influences. And they're definitely they had other princesses on these episodes, but they're the idea of the sex kitten in space, the Barbarella, if you will,
right,
kind of thing. And I feel like the most disappointing thing to me about them is they don't give them much of a character. It's, I'm the clone, you're not the clone. I thought they gave him more to do, but they never really developed the character.
No.
And
they both pine after the captain.
Yeah, and it makes no sense on so many levels. I wish it was explained why they're into this guy who's supposed to be the everyman.
Right.
Even less of an everyman. He's the garbage truck driver.
Sure.
I thought the two actresses, the girls, the twins, I think they could have done more than they gave them to do. And they never gave them.
I'd hope.
They never gave them anything. And I think the premise, and I think that's the problem with a lot of this, with actually the main character, the characters we're talking about. The premise is okay, but the execution, not good.
Yeah, so let's go through the main cast.
Sure.
We've got our main guy, whose name I've already forgotten.
Quark.
I'll find it because I mentioned
Richard
him.
Benjamin.
Oh, of course, Adam Quark.
Yeah.
Of course his name was Quark. I don't know why I forgot that. Yeah, he was like you said, the everyman garbage truck scout.
Yeah.
And there wasn't continuity between episodes with him, though.
No.
Because he was frequently saving the universe, and the next week they'd be like, yeah, he hasn't done anything.
Well, and I thought that was the joke, but they didn't punch it.
No. And there were other running jokes they did lean into. Like how they'd always bring in the three captains to give them their assignments.
Yeah.
And one of them was always a woman.
Yeah, that I'll give them
almost always. There was
for.
once I think they had a robot and a man. But yeah, and they give two of them great assignments.
Right.
And they give him crap every time.
It was either he go pick up garbage or go on a suicide mission.
Yes.
Which I liked that bit.
So yeah, we've got Adam Quark. We've got the twins whose names were
Betty.
They were both named Betty because we weren't sure which was the clone.
So that's right.
So they weren't twins. But I did notice their sleeping chambers that said Betty 1 and Betty 2.
Oh.
So you'd think they'd have, because they had little plaques above their sleeping tubes.
Yeah.
So you'd think one of them would have to be, Then we had Ficus after, so the pilot there was the doctor.
And I think Ficus was such an improvement. I forgot that it changed.
Oh, absolutely.
I think he's the best character. I think he is the funniest character. some of his interactions, I think they pushed him to the logical conclusion of some of the stuff they tried to do with Spock and McCoy that sometimes worked and sometimes didn't, as far as laughs. Relationship-wise,
he wasn't just a Spock knockoff.
Yeah.
But he was in the vein.
Yes, and I thought his lines were very funny.
He was almost a Data a little bit.
Yeah.
Predecessor.
Yeah. So I thought when he comes on board, it makes it much more interesting. I thought he was funny. I thought his delivery was fine. His delivery was good and everything. So
I agree. I just was curious why they didn't explain where Doc went. And then sometime in the next 7 episodes, Quark mentions to Ficus, we've served together for years.
Right.
And I'm like, wait a second. Where continuity-wise, was he just on leave that episode? And Doc was his...
They just wiped the pilot.
Yeah, I didn't like that.
I did read there, like, yep, and Doc is never mentioning it. There's one allusion to him, and that's it. But I can't...
I didn't catch it.
In passing, yeah. I only know it because I saw it in Wikipedia or something. And
then we had Andy, who was not listed as a lead.
Yeah.
Was it because it was just a voice?
I guess so. Although I think the guy who voiced him was also the guy inside him.
Okay.
Bobby Porter. I think it's Bobby Porter. He's 4'10". He was a small person. Mm-hmm. Still is. I think he's still with us.
Same height as my wife.
Oh, there you go. Yeah. And and this might just be the kid in me. He made me laugh the most. I was surprised. And a lot of it's just that dumb, I'm commenting on this, how stupid everyone else is kind of stuff. And some of it's just stupid, I'm a mechanical thing that wants to have, like him hitting on the other mechanical things. Yeah. That made me laugh. For better or worse.
I found him amusing.
I thought he was one of the funnier things, too.
He reminded me a little bit of Marvin in Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. Yeah. Because he's so outside the crew and doesn't want to be inside the crew. Yeah. Where he's like willing to give him up for anything.
He's a coward, that bit I liked. That running bit I really liked.
I thought Andy and Ficus were the good characters. Mm-hmm. And then we had Palindrome, who was kind of random.
It was weird because you had this space thing and then they wanted to make like an office comedy. Right. And Conrad Janis is a great character actor. Sure. I love his stuff. I wish they gave him again, it's another thing. I wish they gave him more to do with the head. The head was funny. Somebody thought that was funny at first, but then they're like, "Oh, we're stuck with this."
Yeah. I noticed in episode 2 they redesigned the head and made it much simpler. Yeah. Which I was a little disappointed by.
Yeah.
I just thought his scenes were usually forced and shoehorned in. And just even having a base that the ship would have to go back to every week if they're traveling the galaxy doesn't make a lot of sense.
And they were very much, and I feel like part of my frustration as the show went on, and I think I have the blind faith that it might have developed and gotten better after the 8 episodes, but one was, whenever they went back to Palindrome, it was like, and I didn't realize the last episode his name was Otto Bob. I realized his name was Palindrome, and I know what a palindrome is, but I didn't realize the last episode his name was Otto Bob. Otto Bob Palindrome. And I think part of my frustration with the rest of the show was, and I think they ran into this because they were trying to get here close to Star Trek kind of stuff or whatever it is. And something I think happens with movies like The Hangover, Ghostbusters, and Stripes, although those movies are so funny it doesn't matter. They had got so caught up in resolving whatever, saving the universe thing they had to do that week that they forgot to write jokes in those parts. Yeah. And so it took time away from character development and being funny and stuff. So I think I was just like, can we just save the universe and get on with the jokes? So for me, that bothered me. And I felt like they couldn't decide if Palindrome was warming to Quark or...
I kept thinking they reset it every episode.
Yeah, because...
He may warm in one episode, but by the next one he's off.
Yeah, so I didn't... you're right. Yeah, they couldn't decide if they wanted him to become, all right, you know what? I like you now, Quark, or like... But Clouseau's boss in the Pink Panther movies where he's like, you drive me insane, you're ruining my life.
I mean, there were an episode or two where Palindrome started the episode liking Quark and like, I'm trying to do you a favor and stuff. Yeah. And that whole time I'm waiting for the shoe to drop, like, you're not really doing a favor, what are you doing? Right. And there was that, too, in the one episode, because he's like, oh, I'm doing you a favor, sending you on the suicide mission. Yeah. I mean, the big head, though, I did think Third Rock from the Sun, with the big giant head, they had to do... I feel like Third Rock had to be paying homage to this. Yeah. I could be wrong.
I feel like this show may have had more influence than it deserved.
Yeah, but I assume there were other kids in the 70s that enjoyed it and copied stuff.
Absolutely, yeah.
I mean, Spaceballs seems, it was about 10 years later, seems like somebody's like, let's take that concept and make it more mainstream and polished.
Yeah, because Spaceballs even uses the same kind of crappy effects work.
Yes. Yeah.
They're like, we're not putting any money into it.
No, I mean, you didn't need to. That was kind of the joke.
Yeah.
I did really like the interface in the first episode with all the arms, the woman that worked for the head.
Oh, yeah.
Mr. We never saw her again.
Yeah.
I was disappointed we never saw her.
Yeah, she would have been a more fun foil.
I did think they had her name literal. But after she was gone, we got Dink, and then we got Duke. And I liked Dink and Duke.
Dink was the hairy creature.
Basically cousin it. And Duke was looked like the same species, but his hair was like dreadlocks, and it was red and curly instead of Dink had straight hair. It was usually Dink, but we had Duke in 2 episodes, and I looked it up. They were separate characters.
Okay.
Because at first I was like, did they mispronounce his name? Did he get a haircut?
Okay.
No.
One of the things early on, I don't know if they ever got around it, but especially that first episode, that pilot, they're having like the global council, whatever Palindrome's talking to. The laugh track for this was terrible.
Oh, yeah.
Like most laugh tracks. But he's just naming the different aliens, and that gets a laugh. And it's like, that's not... If that's your out, is to come up with funny names for the aliens, if that's the height of your comedy, not a good start. And so I thought they did develop some of the aliens that they visited. All of the, for lack of a better term, Star Wars Cantina aliens they had were just literally that. They were just a punchline or a joke or whatever.
I mean, but they had a lot of them, and
they
some
did.
of the designs were nice designs.
They
more than Star Trek did.
This show was Emmy nominated for costume design.
Deserving.
Yeah,
deservedly.
Yeah, I thought they did a good job.
And that was one of the things I wish we'd seen more of. I mean, that was a note I wrote for episode 2. Like, by then we'd already had lots of aliens, which was great.
Did we talk about Gene?
I was just going to say I wasn't trying to save him. Okay. I was just going to comment, though, as you were talking. It occurred to me that we sidestepped him. Awful. One of the worst characters ever put on television.
It's just so... I don't know where to start with.
I mean, I grew up...
And Tim Thomerson's a good actor.
I'm not saying the acting. I don't even know if I can judge the acting, honestly.
No.
I was born in 83. I grew up in the late 80s, early 90s. And that humor would still have been perfectly acceptable then.
Yeah.
Unfortunately. I mean, I grew up in the era where kids called each other gay, and that was whatever. And not proud of that, obviously. Certainly would not do so today. Seeing something that's so blatant, and I mean, it's one thing if kids are doing it.
Right.
It's another if somebody's putting on television as a lead.
And to bring back to Trek, it's like Turnabout and Shooter when we have that moment where Kurt, with the woman inside him, is doing his nails.
Yeah.
But if you did it for an entire...
But so much worse.
Right. Oh, yeah. And
did they have, after, not in the pilot, but episode 2 on, did they have a woman voicing when they...
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. And I felt like the longer they went on, the less they had them switch.
Yes.
They focus more on the
hyper-masculine.
The hyper, yeah, which is like, you know what, just get rid of it. You could have just had that hyper-masculine character.
Even I didn't like the hyper-masculine character either. But yeah.
It would have been less offensive, maybe not as interesting.
That's true.
And, yeah.
Well, it wasn't interesting anyway.
No, and...
If you were going to do somebody that had equal male and feminine traits, that could be a very interesting character.
Yeah.
It was the way they chose to make it so stereotypes.
And it was, yeah, exactly. It's every bad comedian's, you know the difference between men and women.
Yeah.
It's every horrible joke.
Yeah.
And it's just...
But the worst version of those.
Yeah.
Like, we keep comparing it to other things, but I feel like this is the worst version of all of those things.
I think
it really is. It's so bad. That alone disqualifies this from ever getting any type of reboot or movie or continuation.
You definitely can't do it with that character, obviously.
Well, I think that with the... I've already forgotten their names again. Betty's, as well. You couldn't do it with them either. You'd have to completely change that character.
Yeah.
I mean, you could still do the clone concept, but you'd have to give that character a different personality.
Twins will always be popular.
Sure. But you'd actually have to have them, like, be capable and intelligent. And they couldn't just be piping with the captain.
Bimbos.
And honestly, they couldn't both be in love with the captain either.
Well, and that...
Unless it was really...
Just a lot... I'm going to introduce logic, but if the joke was that they were into this every guy, it was never... It should be explained at some point, right? That that's their thing or something. And then my problem with that is that if you're going to do that, then he should be taking advantage of it.
Yeah.
And he was always like annoyed and like, I can't possibly...
I would have been much more offended had he taken advantage of it.
I know, but I think like that's...
But see, the problem there is too, we don't need to be told, oh, you have to respect and admire this guy for resisting. That is also patronizing. That is also bad.
I would rather it's a ship where everyone, it's the 70s, it's a
free love.
everyone's sleeping with everybody.
Sure.
It's
that would be fine. We would not be complaining so much about that.
I'd rather it was that, but there's the episode where he's got to sleep with it's the Deadly Years episode where he's got to sleep with the princess or whatever.
And what was her name, like Princess Libido or something?
Yeah.
Oh my god, that was the Spaceballs thing too.
Yeah, it's on the nose. But I'm like, why is he so excited about that? And he keeps turning these two down.
Well,
and that made sense to me at 9 or now.
See, that made sense to me now. I think the way they tried to spin it, and they didn't spend a lot of time with it, but I felt like there were moments that identified this to me, is he would have been perfectly happy to date Betty. But he didn't know which one was the clone. And he wasn't going to date the clone.
So he was anti-clone.
I think so.
Okay.
Or he didn't want to break one of their hearts. But he didn't want to break... I think they tried to spin it as like a hero thing that he was resisting even though he wanted it.
And I guess the other tricky part is...
I mean, he even says, like, I don't know which one is the clone or whatever. It's like as if that's an excuse for not sleeping with them.
It was the 70s. That show was aired at 8 o'clock or 8:30 every night. If it had been a 10 o'clock show, but nobody's going to put a comedy on at 10 or 10:30 at night, maybe they lean more into what's going on with him. But I was obviously in love with both. I mean, I was going to... Even this time around, I watched them as much as I did the first time around. And...
But
I couldn't take my eyes off him, but yeah.
My alternate Betty here is that she's a big narcissist and she's in love with herself, so she sleeps with herself.
Now you got
something. Get behind that.
Yeah, now you got something, because they're not sisters, not twins, they're
the same person.
That's funnier. Yeah, that'd be more interesting.
I did the overall design stuff. There were hardly any stars anytime they're in space, which I thought had to be for budget.
Yeah, oh yeah.
Unfortunately, but then on the other hand, like, if Star Trek had spent their star budget on more aliens, that probably would have been better, so I can't complain too much. I also wrote down laugh track was a bit much in the pilot, and on the least funny thing.
Oh, it was...
Like, they picked the wrong lines.
Like I said, when I watched those first 5 minutes, I was like, oh my god, this is going to be the worst thing I've ever done, but it wasn't the worst thing I've ever watched for 3 hours. But
now, I did think the transporter, I'm like, okay, you're ripping off Star Trek, but most sci-fi's chosen, until the Orville, has chosen to rip off the transporter because it is such an easy device.
It is convenient,
It's convenient. But
that is one of the bits I did like, was whenever they beamed him down, they essentially did McCoy's thing, where every time he beamed down, they beamed him down into water.
Well, that's just like if Andy was annoyed with him or something.
Yeah,
like, they do it on purpose.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was funny. But some of the other technology, I liked the vertical beds. I thought those were kind of cool.
Yeah.
Not how practical they are, but I liked the design.
Sure.
I liked the food tubes.
Oh, yeah.
I don't think that's how I want to eat.
No.
But
it looked painful.
It did, but there was a practicality to it. I appreciate it.
Sure.
And, it would be easier if food was just like, here's exactly what you need all at once. Although I like the experience of eating. But whatever.
Sure.
And I, as the kid in me, really loved all the slides.
Yeah.
Again, not that practical.
No.
Although I guess if you're trying to get from bedchamber to the bridge really quick, that would be quicker.
Yeah.
But I enjoyed them very much. I want those slides in my house.
For whatever reason, it just reminded me of the one bit with his pet alien Ergo.
Yeah. Who only saw it the first and last episode.
Yeah, and I enjoyed the first episode that he's essentially attacking him the whole time, which that's a bit from the Pink Panther, Kato attacking Clouseau or whatever. But that actually was funny, and it was a weird little creature, but yeah.
So I realized I took extensive notes on each episode. Well, I wouldn't say extensive on each episode. I've got 2 full pages total. But I realized almost all of my notes in the pilot are very general notes and nothing to do with that specific plot.
Okay.
It's like design and,
I'm trying to remember what they even did.
I'm not remembering either. And that, to me, I think he saved the universe in some way.
I'm sure he did.
He offered a promotion at the end of that? Or was that episode 2? He was offered promotion at the end.
And then he turned it down?
And they turned it down because they weren't going to promote his crew with him.
That's right.
But then they kept, dangling the promotion. Oh, you're in line for promotion.
Yeah.
They're like, no! You already gave him the promotion. He turned it down. He's not in line anymore.
Yeah.
Unless you're going to put the whole crew in line.
I guess they were doing like a South Park or a Simpsons. Like every week it just resets.
I don't like that.
Nah.
Episode 2 was their Star Wars knockoff, The Source.
Oh, yeah.
That was real heavy-handed.
Yeah.
They did another episode with a similar mention.
Yeah.
But The Source was super heavy-handed.
The fact that the title was The Source May Be With You or whatever.
Yeah. At first they were
May the Source Be With You, I should say.
Yes. I mean, a lot of the titles, I didn't write them down, but they were puns on other sci-fi stuff. When they first started talking about The Source as a weapon, they're like, it hasn't been used in 200 years. Like, what kind of weapon do you not update and better in 200 years. I'm like, if it's a nuclear weapon, the weapons from the 40s are very different than what we have. But then they're like, no, it's just like the Force, but it's in a box.
Yeah, and I didn't realize the voice of the Force was Hans Conried, who's a comic actor and voice actor. He did a lot of, I'm going to say Rocky and Bullwinkle, but he did a lot of those cartoons in that era.
And they saved the galaxy in the second episode, but they didn't mention they just saved the galaxy in the first episode.
Right.
They treated them like it was brand new.
Yeah.
Episode 3, immediately we get the heads thinking of promoting Quark. And I'm like, you just did that. Oh, about episode 2, why was it double length? Any idea?
That's a good question.
I guess it was like a new pilot. Because the pilot was aired by itself. And then the rest was aired a year later.
I'm trying. What was the through for?
That was the one with they had to use the weapon to stop the gross enemy, the Klingon
that's
knockoffs.
Right. Yeah.
Or actually, I thought they were more Flash Gordon villain alien knockoffs.
Yeah, I wonder if that was kind of if you saw the pilot, we're going to cleanse you of that.
Yeah.
And if you didn't see the pilot, we're going to this is our thing. So, yeah.
But it was very clearly a 45-minute story, not a 2-part story.
Yeah.
And so, I don't know, I didn't realize back then they would do double-length episodes for pilots and things, and it just felt very weird to me that it was double-length. Like, there didn't seem to be a sense for it.
And as I was watching, I was wondering if there was going to be continued, or if it was, but I think it was just an hour long.
Yeah, no, it was.
And that was the other thing was, each episode was around 24, 25 minutes, which now, I just finished my Mindy project rewatch.
Yeah.
There weren't many beyond 22, 23 minutes.
Well, the ones on broadcast weren't. Hulu, they might have done longer. I don't remember. I haven't finished the Hulu ones. Well, the original Star Trek we talked about, those episodes are 52, 53 minutes. We get Next Gen, they're like 44. Mm-hmm. By the time we get to Voyager, they're like 41.
Yep.
So that's the nature of commercial television.
Yep, that's right.
And 3, we had the horny space princess.
Okay. Barbara Rhodes, who I remembered from... That was the other thing. A lot of these women that I saw on the show, like, I remember her from every TV show or a bunch of TV shows, and
and that was their Deadly Years episode.
Yes,
but just having sex with her cured him.
Was that the was that the deal? Yeah, which Barbara Rhodes very attractive. Don't get me wrong, but it was a weird.
There was no scientific. There was no attempt to explain it scientifically or logically.
Wasn't that the one where Ficus was coming up with the antidote, and then by the time he did, he was cured? Was that the deal?
I don't know.
You know what? I may be confusing that with the Orville.
Episode 4, I wrote, they again were ignoring Quark's accomplishments in the first 3 episodes. Mm-hmm. That was where we had evil Quark and crew.
Oh, the enemy within slash
mirror.
Yeah.
They did them so exaggerated, it wasn't even...
Yeah, I mean, that's the enemy within part.
Except Ficus, who was like exactly the same. His plants still have emotions.
Yeah,
it was more exaggerated than the enemy within.
I like that aspect more than I thought I would, but yeah.
Episode 5, they ripped off the Star Trek opening. These are the Voyager, our ongoing mission.
Yeah.
They did a kind of a parody that hewed close to that. They were sent to that planet that they'd sent a bunch of people to, and no one's ever came back. And that line, the planet might be getting crowded, that actually amused me. Yeah. I liked that humor.
So, is this the next episode?
This is episode 5.
This is the shore leave episode.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, this one also had a bunch of women I recognized from many other TV shows. I felt like in the 70s. Oh, to go back to that last episode, the Barbara Rhodes, one of her handmaidens. Mm-hmm. This will apply to our next episode. Kirstie Alley, uncredited.
Really?
Yeah, I didn't notice it.
I didn't catch it.
I read that doing my research afterwards.
I didn't catch it.
Yeah, so I thought about going back and watching. I didn't, but yeah.
In a few weeks, when we're talking Wrath of Khan, not in a few minutes, in a few weeks.
Exactly, a few weeks.
We'll have to talk.
Yeah, I didn't.
Yeah, I missed
it. Yeah,
I did think the shore leave one, episode 5, had the most interesting concept that they explored in episode. At the end, where he's like, "I basically destroyed heaven," or somebody told him he destroyed heaven.
Yeah,
and I was like, they didn't really take time to explore it, but that was the closest they came to doing like a Star Trek philosophical episode.
I thought that episode was the funniest, and the fact that he was the one who was like, oh, I got to stop doing this, with that beautiful woman that kept going. And I didn't understand, and again, this is 9-year-old me and me now. When the girl turned into the clay person, she still looked very attractive.
Yes.
She was just covered in clay.
Yes.
I didn't understand why he was turned off by her.
I don't either. I agree with you. I was still down for it.
Yeah, she still looked beautiful.
Absolutely. Episode 6 and 7 were a two-parter. That actually was split as a two-parter.
And this is the
Princess Libido and the Zorgon.
Okay.
They talked about Jean's male side at the beginning. I don't remember why I wrote that down, but I was annoyed by that. I thought the names Zorgon and Princess Libido.
Yeah.
Sorry, what?
Oh, no, it just reminded me that Joan Van Ark was Princess Libido. Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah.
There was a bondage chick in it. I liked that costume.
Yeah.
Best costume for me. The high fives and handcuffs, the Bettys. Like, that high five they do was always kind of amusing.
Yeah.
And doing it in the handcuffs, I thought it was kind of amusing.
Yeah. And
like, that was the first time I was like, oh, they're pretty funny.
Again, you for the guys at home, you take two beautiful blonde twins, and then you put them in handcuffs.
Oh, I'm not. I want them to put me in handcuffs.
Well, of course, sure.
But no, I just meant, like, normally it was just cringe every time they were on the screen.
Yeah.
And that I actually thought they were being funny.
Yeah.
And was like, okay, maybe these girls could have done something better.
Yeah, they could have.
And that was the episode where I wrote, okay, Ficus is definitely Spock, learning seduction.
Oh, I can't remember what their main...
But he has the Klingon level of honor.
They pollinate, that's right.
Yeah. But he has the Klingon level of honor. Like, I can't be dishonest and I can't whatever.
And that's Joan Van Ark of Dallas and Knots Landing fame.
Yes.
Very adorable.
Pollinating, I wrote that down.
Yeah, it was funny.
It was.
I guess it was kind of a Pon farr kind of whatever, yeah.
The thing I didn't get about part 1 that didn't make sense to me is Gene and Andy escape to go get help. Uh-huh. Nobody's looking for them. It's like late in part 2 where they're like, hey, those guys might have escaped, we should find them.
Yeah.
It's like, no, you'd be looking for them. It's kind of like the original Star Wars and the Death Star where they're like, why aren't they spending more time looking for them? Moving into part 2, their laser gun was ruining that table. Was that a one-use table? You sliced the
yeah. Which was a weird Goldfinger reference, yeah.
Was that Goldfinger before this or after?
It was before.
Okay, so it was an intentional reference.
Yeah.
Libido was just ridiculous regarding Ficus. Like, she just accepted everything.
I thought it was very...
It was still going to marry him.
Yeah, whatever he mentioned, she was like, I'm in, I'm down. She was yes-anding everything, which is good for her. But yeah, I was the same way. I was like, wait, is she? Okay, she is. So, rebellious daughter, I guess.
I just thought she didn't have any character development.
Not really.
Like most of the women on the show.
I did enjoy Ross Martin as Zorgon.
Yeah, it was a very Flash Gordon.
The Wild Wild West. Yeah, totally. Yeah, totally.
Zorgon's throne did look awfully comfy.
Yeah.
I wanted to go sit in that throne. I did think I was a little confused with the livable asteroid that seemed to have a total atmosphere.
That was something I didn't notice until like 20 minutes in. I'm like, oh, they keep saying they're on an asteroid. That's right.
Yeah, but
it didn't.
It's like if the asteroid was orbiting the sun around the same place Earth was, and it grew life.
Right.
I don't know. I suppose it's possible.
Was that the one where it looked like they were on a spaceship, or was that? I think that was a different episode. I think it was a different episode.
Palindrome's dad was in part 2. I thought that was kind of weird and forced.
Oh, was it him?
He was just trying to please his dad, and I'm like, this is kind of dumb. More than kind of dumb. Part 2 is the episode where Ficus tells Quark after all these years serving together, and I'm like, wait, no, you've only been serving with him just 5 episodes. And then It Isn't Every One of Us was at the end, and I'm like, are they talking about the Source again? The Force? It almost seemed like they were talking about it. I don't know.
Oh, was that the one with the diamond, the jewel?
Yeah, it just like happened to glance off, and then he thought he was invincible.
Yeah.
I did appreciate that concept, though.
Yeah.
Like, the thinking that he had these powers he didn't have. And then the final episode, I said I'd have trouble ranking them, but I do think the final episode is my favorite.
And that's kind of the 2001, the computer one, right? Ultimate Computer, while we're referring to Star Trek. In fact, they say the Ultimate Computer in the episode.
And that's not why I liked it.
Yeah.
I liked it because they had holiday number 11, and we're going to do number 11
I thought that was fun, too.
It was really fun, and they kept bringing it back.
Yeah.
And I was just like, that's like a unique, fresh idea. I
wish the series had more of
those. Yeah. That's what I wanted them to do, not just knock off something else. Be originally silly.
Yeah, and it's almost like they didn't want to commit to those, for lack of a better term, higher concepts, even though they're just stupid, but there's a bunch of base, simple things they were going for the common man, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, but stuff like that, it's like, it was just something that how many people would think of doing something like that.
And that's funny, and that's...
It is.
And NBC was a disaster at this time, and they probably should have gave this show more time. But everything on NBC, they were like a distant third. They were like, they were practically fourth place behind PBS. They were so terrible at the time, but I think they were even quicker to pull triggers back then.
Was PBS even a thing back then?
It was. That was the fourth channel. You had to change it on the UHF dial. But but those were the 4 stations: NBC, ABC, CBS.
Yeah, I always just hear people talk about the 3 stations.
Yeah.
But I guess PBS wasn't also...
Our family was very highbrow, so we used PBS.
PBS started in 1969.
Yeah.
That last episode, his pet came back, but it was quite different.
Yeah.
And how did it wear a collar? Because it certainly looked like it was out of the collar.
Yeah, and it could breathe out in space. And,
he had to take it for walks in space. And then Quark just discovered the hose broken? I don't know.
Yeah, like I said, it was very, obviously, 2001 references there. Although the walking the dog felt like a Jetsons reference.
Yes.
Except he wasn't on a space treadmill.
So that was all the notes I had, other than 2 that I wanted to talk with Keith about. I don't know that I could rank these episodes. I certainly think number 8 was my favorite, and number 5 was also kind of up there. The shore leave one, just because of the concept of destroying heaven.
Yeah. Those 2 stand out more to me.
Yeah, the other ones all kind of blur together, especially... We had a similar princess in a couple episodes.
Yeah.
We had the Force thing in a couple episodes. Even though there were only 8 episodes.
Yeah.
I guess kind of 9 because the one was a double length, but still.
Yeah.
They did say it was set in 2226, which is earlier than Star Trek. And yet it seemed like space was all settled.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. Overall, I'd say I wish they had tried harder on continuity.
Mm-hmm.
Been more original.
Yeah.
And... not been so offensive.
I
mean, those things may have been acceptable, but some part of you had to know it wasn't really right.
Yeah.
And it wasn't going to stick around as continuing to be acceptable.
It's a dumb thing, but at the end of the day, this show just needed to be funnier.
Yeah.
They needed to write better jokes. I know it's the Alan Alda and Crimes and Misdemeanors thing, but they needed to write better jokes, and they just didn't. I think they went for instead of going for the number 11, was it number 11?
Holiday 11.
Holiday 11.
Holiday number 11.
Holiday number 11. They went for all the transmute dumb jokes and stuff, and it's disappointing. I think the cast is capable. Tim Palmerston's a good actor. Richard Benjamin did Love at First Bite not long after this, which was a Dracula spoof.
Yeah.
Which was really well done and turned out really well. He also did one that wasn't as good as Saturday the 14th, which is kind of a spoof of the slasher movies that all came out around then. He went on to direct a lot of movies. One of my favorites, Racing with the Moon, which was not a comedy at all. 1983 or 84 with a young Elizabeth McGovern, a young Nicolas Cage, and a young Sean Penn. So I recommend that. Overlooked gem from the 80s. This whole show I just look at as a missed opportunity.
Yeah, I mean, it's no worse than a lot of other sitcoms of its era.
Yeah.
And I'm thinking even up into the early 90s, it's not worse than a lot of the shows that got many seasons and stayed on.
Yeah.
And I think I would have liked it at the time. But in 2019, where we are now, not just for the sensibilities, but for the quality of the show, I can't in good conscience recommend anyone go check it out.
No.
It's not worth your 3.5 hours.
No. I would check out one of those 2 episodes we mentioned if you're going to. But
I wouldn't even.
If you want to spend 20-some minutes.
If you want to spend 20-some minutes, episode 5 or 8. I can't.
Or if you're like me and you remember watching this before, I would suggest watching it. But
to relive some nostalgia.
But like I said at the beginning, the first 5 minutes of that pilot, I was like, oh my God. And then it made me laugh. And then by, like I said, whatever it was, 3.5 hours of programming, or 4 hours, by the 3-hour mark, I was like, are we done yet?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I don't think I laughed out loud a single time.
I did, actually, which surprised me.
I was amused a couple times.
I was surprised, and mostly it was Andy and Ficus. Those are it's pretty much all those guys.
Like I said, I think Dink.
Maybe a couple
Duke
star
might
notes.
have been my favorite character.
Well,
yeah.
But yeah, it was. Again, I was surprised that I laughed more than I thought I was going to, but at the end, I was still disappointed. I really thought. I did think it might be that overlooked gem, and I can't. Like I said, I can't agree with the one review. It's like it's hilarious. It was overlooked. It's like it had potential.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, this show had potential, but
Lots
it never.
Of shows have potential.
They do, and this one never got close to it.
No.
And it might have got there at the end of one season, but
I doubt it. I doubt it very much. It certainly didn't feel like it was going anywhere. Well, hopefully we'll get to add some stuff in with Keith here, but if we don't, I want to go ahead and mention for posterity, because I loved the first episode, how they said galaxy time, and then they listed the time, and then the ship came out from below instead of
yeah.
So 2 things that we frequently wish Star Trek had done more of. Establishing a time, and not staying on flat planes. Although they didn't explain what galaxy time was, but I appreciate they had
but
it.
I had that same thought. I
don't remember what next week is, but until next time, live long.
And prosper.
It's All Been Done presents
Who's Got the Time?